Hello, this is Jinju at kimchimarie.com, Korean food blog with authentic recipes that even you can cook. So I'm very happy to share my new how-to video on one of my most popular recipes, Gochujang. Now, as I share in my blog post, if you want to really enjoy all the great benefits of fermentation, then it is best to make your own gochujang at home. Not to mention the huge difference in taste when you make it at home. The homemade gochujang really explodes with deep and complex umami flavors that when you use a homemade gochujang to cook, you'll find that you really need much less seasoning in your cooking overall. Before we get started, I want to explain a little bit about meju. Meju, as you see here, is the starting point for all Korean soybean-based seasonings. It is first made from cooked soybeans. They're crushed and shaped into a brick shape like you see here. Then it is hung to dry using a rice straw, as you see in this picture. And then it is fermented further in a warm place. And once the right amount of mold develops, then meju is then used to make ganjang, soy sauce, as you see here, where the meju is floating in brine with some red chilies and charcoal. Then you can also make doenjang by crushing the meju and mixing it with salt and barley or rice. And then of course we can make gochujang. Here are the ingredients you need to make gochujang: water, sweet rice flour, sea salt, rice syrup, malted barley powder, or also called garu, a very fine Korean red chili powder, gochugaru, that should say it's for gochujang. If you cannot buy the fine chili powder, you can buy the regular coarse one for making kimchi, but you then grind it at home with a blender. Besides these, you'll need a clay jar or ongi that's used for kimchi and other fermentation in Korean cuisine. The clay jar is great because the porous walls will allow the gochujang to breathe while it ferments. But if you cannot get one, you can just use a glass or a plastic container and that'll do fine. Now optionally, you'll need a small steel bowl, a tong, and some sesame seeds. The day before, you need to first sanitize the ongi by rinsing it with really hot boiling water. Additionally, burn some charcoal, and when they become embers, then put them in a small bowl and quickly add the sesame seeds. Then turn the jar over to cover it, making sure all that wonderful smoke fills up inside and sanitizes the jar while imparting a great smoky flavor, which will ultimately get in your gochujang. Leave this overnight. Now, besides getting the jar ready, you also need to do a couple more things the day before. First is to soak the malted barley. Look at this beautiful malted barley. You want to get a big bowl, large container, enough to hold 5 liters of water. And then you're going to put about 750 grams of malted barley, which is about 1.6 pounds. Just mix everything well together and let it soak overnight. In another bowl, soak 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds of sweet rice in water. Now these sticky or sweet rice will double in volume overnight, so be sure to add enough water when you soak them. Next morning, this is how it looks, and let the rice drain while you prepare some of the other ingredients. The malted barley is now nicely soaked, and then we're going to get a big bowl, line it with a fine cheesecloth. If you don't have one, you can use a fine sieve, and that'll work fine. Pour the malted barley liquid over the cheesecloth, and then lift the cloth with your hands and filter out all the excess liquid. And as you can see, squeeze it at the end so you get as much liquid out of it as you can. And by the way, this is what you also use to make that wonderful sweet drink called Jjigae. If you're ever interested, I have a recipe on my blog. Okay, now we're going to make rice powder or flour out of the sweet rice. So I'm putting the soaked sweet rice in a blender, and we're going to blend it until it's as fine as it can be. So when you're done, you'll notice it'll still have some grit, but that's fine. Now you may ask if you can use mochiko flour. I prefer not to for making gochujang because you need all that fresh nutrient and the moisture the soaked sweet rice flour will have. So now we're adding the sweet rice flour, freshly grounded, into the malted barley liquid that we just filtered. Put it all in there, mix it well, and then what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the oven at a temperature of about 60 degrees Celsius or 140 Fahrenheit for about 5 hours. And what happens during this time is that the enzymes from the malted barley liquid will start to sort of disintegrate the rice granules. Once that's done, then we're pouring it into a pot, and then we're going to cook it at medium heat until the liquid is reduced by about 20%. And this is how much we have left here. Now we're going to let it cool. Once it's cooled, then we're going to add rice syrup. Rice syrup is made by dissolving regular short grain rice in malted barley powder liquid, and then it is boiled and reduced until it becomes syrup. It's called Gochujang in Korean. So we're going to dissolve about 1 kilogram or 2.2 pounds of the rice syrup into the malted barley reduced liquid. Then we're going to add about 750 grams or 1.65 pounds of Korean solar sea salt, 천일염. It's the same salt you use to make kimchi with. So after adding the salt, then we're going to add about 500 grams or about 1.1 pounds of the mejugaru, the soybean powder made from those meju blocks. Then finally, we're going to add about 1.5 kilograms or 3.3 pounds of the very fine red Korean red chili powder, gochugaru, especially made for making gochujang. So now we have added all of that in. We're going to mix it all together. It's already smelling wonderful of the mejugaru and the funky and the earthy smell of that, and the little spice in the air that comes from those wonderful chili powders. So we keep mixing it until everything is well dissolved and mixed together. And now you can see it's looking more and more like gochujang. So, and make sure they're all evenly mixed. And once you're all mixed, you will see that actually as time passes, it'll get kind of thicker and thicker as the powders absorb the liquid. And this is sort of the consistency you want. And then now we're ready to uncover the hangari. And we can wipe the inside a little bit because we don't want all the ash in there. So I wiped out the ash. And now finally pouring in this wonderful gochujang that we just made. We're going to pour it all in, all of it. And it's just a wonderful feeling to know that this will be ready in a few months. And you can share it with your family, your friends, and they will all just love you for it. So make sure you scrape everything in there, and then you should kind of even out the top as much as you can. And here's a quick view of the day that I was making gochujang. It was actually raining outside. And my crazy dog is of course out there just not minding the rain. Now that it's all smoothed out, we're going to sprinkle some Korean coarse sea salt, 천일염, on top to prevent any mold from forming. Then you're going to cover it with a glass lid if you can find one, or if not, you can cover it with a fine mesh cloth, the glass lid you see here. Leave it out there for 6 months and you should be able to enjoy it. Thank you. Bye.